Well, a question. Your spiritual you isn't confined to the material body, is it? You can't leave it because you aren't in it. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. They have searched the brain, the heart, the marrow, and they have come up only with tissue and function. When I say I, how are you going to localize that? Now, where am I? Am I here behind the eyes? Am I down in the chest or tucked behind the navel? Here? There? No. The I that says I is not in the physical, absent from the body and present with the Lord, the scripture declares, and it is not poetry when we let it be fact. I am not in the physical. I am not in the physical. The body is an instrument. The I is the life that plays it. Why begin here? Because the impulse in you to fix your husband, your wife, your child, your colleague, rises out of a mistaken address, a mismailed letter. The fixer ego is a messenger who has stolen the seal of the king and signs edicts without authority. It says, I know what should be done, I know what you must become, and immediately it assumes the office reserved for God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Place no human will, no personal righteousness, no clever scheme in that holy chair. If I am in the body, I will push and pull bodies. If I am in spirit, I will rest in spirit and let spirit move as it will. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Be still. Hear it. Be still. And know that I am God. Not be noisy with fixing. Not be hurried with plans. Be still. In stillness, the false mechanic loses his toolbox. In stillness, the unauthorized messenger drops the stolen seal. In stillness, I discover that my conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. And in that oneness, what could I fix? The ocean does not fix the wave. The light does not fix the ray. The whole expresses, and the part is made whole in the expressing. The unsettling question continues. Who is the I that feels the itch to interfere? Where does it live? Watch closely. It lives in the judgment that you are over there and I am over here. Two selves, two minds, two powers. No, there are not two powers. I and my Father are one. This is not a motto but a mechanism. In realized union, guidance is not my thought about you. It is God being God where you are. Then help is not advice, it is presence. It doesn't push. It doesn't pull. It dawns. It harmonizes. So we set our promise for this hour. As the false fixer dissolves, help begins, help that is not meddling, not management, not manipulation, but the effortless radiance of the one. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And as the sense of a personal fixer yields to that grace, we find ourselves absent from the body of opinion and present with the Lord of love, where relationships are not projects and community is not a workshop, but a temple already lit from within. Now hear me gently but plainly. Do not tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. It blesses obedience and it cuts misuse. We are not speaking of a house rule or a denominational preference. We are speaking of the law that was before Moses and flows beyond our century. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Two edges of one blade, two facets of one impersonal principle. One says, do not raise personal will, personal righteousness, personal fear into a second God. The other says, acknowledge in your neighbor the same God you acknowledge in yourself, and do not intrude upon that. Non-interference is the practical name of this holy combination. Where God alone is God, there is nothing left for a human fixer to do but bow and be used. Understand the nature of law, and your heart will be steadied. If you violate 2 times 2 equals 4, you do not anger arithmetic, you suffer the wrath of mathematics in your own sums. If you ignore the load-bearing principle in a bridge, you do not offend steel, you meet consequence in the river. It is the same with this command. Violate non-interference, and you suffer the recoil in the very place you meant to help. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Sow advice in the soil of fear, and reap resistance. Sow manipulation, and reap estrangement. Judge not, that ye be not judged, is not a threat from a moody deity. It is a description of process. The measure you meet is the measure that returns, because law is one, undivided. This is universal. The golden rule, whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them, is not a local proverb. It appears across scriptures as far back as 1500 BC and forms that differ in language but not in essence. East and west, desert and mountain, oracle and prophet, the same chord is struck. Do not impose upon another what you would not have imposed upon you. Reverence the inner light as you would have your own light reverenced. Why? Because the self you honor there is the self you are. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, to tamper with your indwelling God is to violate my own. Non-interference is not indifference. Never. It is not a shrug that says, do as you like. It is a bowed head that says, let God be God where you are. It is the boundary that is not a wall but a sanctuary. An inner hush that refuses to crowd the altar in your brother's heart. It will not lay hands of opinion upon you. It will not project mental currents or work tricks with thought. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contacts because God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. In this obedience, there is warmth. There is nearness. There is the radiance of one presence, not the chill of abandonment. So let the commandment stand in your midst as law, not as motto. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, no second will, no fixer enthroned. Love thy neighbor as thyself, reverence the same I that lives as you. Align with this, and the blessing comes of itself. The quiet sufficiency that needs no pressure, resist it, and the cut returns upon the hand that wields it. Therefore we whisper, not as poetry, but as alignment. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And in that grace, the meddler falls silent, and the law fulfills itself without our interference. Let me confess a practice that has spared me and spared many. I never give human advice. Never. Not a bit. Why? Because advice presumes that I am the actor, that I know the way you ought to go, and I will help you go there. But I am not the actor. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. The battle is the Lord's, says Scripture. And if the battle is the Lord's, what business has my sword in your garden? The moment a human will lift its head to direct you, it enthrones a second God, my opinion, my fear, my ideal of what you should become. And at once the law answers, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Here is the backlash. And many of you have tasted it. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow control and reap counter-control. Issue a decree from the little throne of self, and another little throne arises to resist it. Personal will sets up resistance, the way 2 magnets push away when turned face to face. Advise sharply and watch the jaw tighten across the table. Press and you are pressed upon, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Might invites a contest, Spirit ends the contest because Spirit never entered it. Have you wondered why your most reasonable counsel brought the least reasonable reply? Why your careful plan, offered with trembling love, seemed to provoke the very behavior you feared? It is law, not mystery. If you violate the load-bearing principle in a bridge, it is not steel that is offended. You meet the river. If you violate the first commandment with a second God named My Solution, you meet the river of consequence in your own house. The measure you meet comes back on the same measure stick, not because God is punitive, but because law is one and cannot divide itself to favor your private use. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. Use it to manage a person, and it injures the user. First, confusion in your sleep, heat in your blood, a fog in prayer until you drop the second God and bow again to one. Presence is another atmosphere entirely. Perfect love casteth out fear. Love releases. It does not arrange. In realized oneness, there is no human will to set up the friction. Therefore, there is no opposing will to grind against it. Silence does not invite a duel. Quiet receptivity does not send out a summons for argument. It stands in the sanctuary and lets God be God. And in that holy non-doing, the heat has nothing to feed on. The contest dissolves because it was never fed. The rope of tug-of-war falls slack because one side refused the grip. So learn the diagnosis and be free of discouragement. Fixing fails because it places a human will where only God belongs. The instrument that grabs the baton ceases to be an instrument and the music stops. Put the baton back where it belongs. I and my Father are one. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And when grace suffices, advice is unnecessary, pressure is impossible, and harmony arises without a manager. How then do I stand out of the way without abandoning love? The answer is a way of being, and it begins very simply. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father, which is in secret. The closet is not a room. It is that inner chamber where the senses are quieted and the fixer has nothing to hold. Sit in a chair low enough so that your feet rest firmly upon the floor. Let the hands lie relaxed, not gripping the chair, not folded in tension palms easy upon the thighs. Never rest your arms upon the chair. Let them be unweighted. Close the eyes, not for any occult reason, but for comfort. There is no magic in lids. There is only less intrusion. It will be a chair low enough, a posture simple enough, that the body need not remind you of itself. In this position, with eyes closed and hands quiet, I am virtually unaware of having a body. I do not try to leave it. No. You cannot leave it because you are not in it. You never have been in it. Absent from the body and present with the Lord, I let the breath find its own rhythm. I do not regulate it. I do not improve it. My one intention is no intention, desireless, watchful, available. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and know how to fix. Be still and know. Now the waiting. I wait in a state of receptivity. I am not waiting for a sign to manage someone. I am not waiting for pictures, voices, or instructions about another's conduct. I am waiting until finally the click comes. Those who have sat long enough will recognize it. a soft settling, a weightless certitude, a hush that is not sleepy but alive. In that instant, I know I am now consciously unioned with God. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. The pressure to do drops away because the presence has taken its own place. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Between the beginning and that click, I use one password only, not to get an outcome, but to let go of my little throne. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I repeat it as many times as there is still a me trying to arrange. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. With each repetition, the hand loosens from the lever. The fixer is emptied out, and the room is left to God. Checkpoint, and let it be firm. No visualizing, no projecting, no sending thoughts. Never, not a bit. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contact. Do not see your brother in your mind and try to adjust him. Do not throw thought like a net. That is interference, however pious it sounds. We are not doers. We are availability. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. In stillness, we do not make salvation. We witness it. Remain until the inner hush is established. It may be 2 minutes. It may be longer. Time is not the point. When the click has come, rest there without agenda. Do not break the silence with plans. Let the prayer end itself and rise carrying nothing but the fact of oneness. In that oneness, the meddler is disarmed and God alone acts. Now, when the click has come, how does help occur? Not as a doing toward another, but as a being of God through us. Hear the identity formula again and let it stand as law, not slogan. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. That means connection without control. It means communion without management. It means I am not reaching over there to mend a life. I am resting here in God. And here, because God is omnipresence, touches everywhere at once. I and my Father are one. That is not a thought to work with. It is a life to yield to. Here is the transfer. Live thou thy life in me. I do not adopt the method. I do not select the technique. I surrender instrumentality. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. If a flute imagines itself, the musician, the room fills with squeal. If the musician breathes it, music appears of itself. So with us, we cease arranging the notes of another's day and permit the one to breathe, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Do not try to localize help. Never, not a bit. Help is not over there in a problem to be reached, nor in a person to be adjusted. Help is the radiation of realized presence here, which is everywhere. The kingdom of God is within you. When here is God realized, there is no distant there. The light that dawns in this inner chamber illumines whatever scene requires light, without travel and without push. A lamp does not run about the room correcting shadows. It stands where it is, and darkness loses location. What, then, are the effects? In my oneness with God, I find completeness. In my oneness with God, I find security. In my oneness with God, I find peace. In my oneness with God, I find joy. In my oneness with God, I find fulfillment. And because consciousness is one, those who come within range of that realize sufficiency are met not by my opinion, but by abundance that asks nothing of them. Perfect love casteth out fear. Where fear is cast out here, its echo quiets there. Without advice, tensions ease. Without argument, edges round. Without plans, provision appears in right ways, right times, right measures, because law is fulfilling itself as presence. How shall you test guidance? Only after the click, only after the hush. If an impulse rises as a feather, unforced, unheeded, speak it. If silence arises, keep it. If withdrawal comes, step back. If service presents itself, serve, simply, without message. The sign of God action is absence of strain, no bargaining, no inner argument, no hurry. If heat is in it, wait. If fear is in it, wait. It is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Let the willing be his. Let the doing be his. So we remain at center. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Absent from the body of fixing, present with the Lord of all sufficiency, we discover the mechanism of healing is not manipulation, but manifestation, God being God. And we, gratefully, the quiet flute. A boundary in this way of life is not a fence to keep you out. It is a sanctuary that keeps God in. Love thy neighbor as thyself is not sentiment, it is architecture. It means I refuse to violate your inner sovereignty exactly as I refuse to violate mine, because the same I lives in both. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty is the sign of presence. If I crowd your altar with my opinions, I have made a second God of my will. No, no, thou shalt have no other gods before me. So love draws a clear circle, not to exclude you, but to reverence the Holy of Holies within you, and to protect the stillness in which your God and mine may act. Therefore our language shifts. We do not come with instruction, we come with sanctuary. Listen to the way a boundary speaks when it is love. I won't tell you what to do, but I will sit with you until we feel the click. If the click does not come, I will not press you, and I will not press myself. I will keep silence with you until the Lord gives light. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, for both of us. If words rise feather light, we will honor them. If not, we will not force a sound. This is not withdrawal. It is reverence. It is saying with the prophet, the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Non-transactional relating follows naturally. When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing I have, competition ceases and clarity appears. Freely ye have received, freely give. I am not here to collect your agreement, your behavior, your gratitude. I am here to witness God being God as you, and that leaves no bargain to strike. In that atmosphere, the heat drains away because there is no prize to fight for. Presence ends the auction. Spirit cancels the bid. And we let law teach. As ye sow, so shall ye reap is not a threat. It is the rhythm of reality. Do not intercept the lesson by cushioning every consequence. Do not outrun grace with rescue born of fear. Yes, provide safety. Yes, refuse abuse. But let the outcomes of choice educate the chooser, as they have educated you. If you lift a sprout each morning to see if it has rooted, you kill the root. Stand beside water with prayer, warm with patience, and let the root take hold in God's good soil. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. In conflict, we practice this altar keeping. Step back from fixing. Step into presence. Say softly, I love you. I am not here to win. I need a moment to be quiet. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things for both of us. If heat is in the room, wait. If fear is in the breath, wait. When the click comes, let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, clarity without coercion, firmness without force. If a boundary must be spoken, let it protect the temple, not punish the worshiper. I won't continue this conversation while we are angry. I will return when peace governs. That is love guarding the sanctuary. A true boundary is not a wall. It is a sanctuary where the other's God can act without our interference. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. We are merely the instruments that keep the space holy. In my oneness with God, I find liberty, and in that same oneness, I honor yours. Thus we dwell together, not as managers and managed, but as a people of one altar, whispering one password. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let me give you evidences, not to excite you, but to steady you in obedience. A letter came from abroad, Holland, as it happens written in a careful hand. You were at my mother's bedside last night, it said. The pain that had held her for days lifted in a moment. You did not touch her. You only stood there, and a hush came, and we wept for relief. I wrote back with one sentence before I folded the page. I did not consciously project myself, and I hope you will never try to do it. At the hour they named, I was in a chair, in my own home, with eyes closed, desireless, waiting. I had only reached that place where the click comes, absent from the body and present with the Lord. In that instant, the sense of personal doing fell away. God filled his own place. Later, a telegram followed the letter. Harmony continues. I had nothing to add, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Another note, nearer to many of you, a family estrangement of 3 years' winter, a daughter who would not answer a mother's letters. They asked for counsel. I never give human advice. Never. Not a bit. I said, only let us be still a few minutes and say nothing. We sat together in a silence that did not arrange, Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. When the click came, we rose and parted without plan. The next day marked the pattern the phone rang, unsummoned. A first word, a second word, a softening. No speech of mine had crossed the wires. Presence had taken its own route, and what had been a knot unknotted itself because no hand tried to pull it. I tell you also what occurs in the body when spirit governs. In periods of deep awareness, when the work runs high, I have slept 3.5 hours and risen strong. Appetite alters. Heaviness lays itself aside. The system refuses what burdens it. This is not theory. It is physiology under grace. The organism quiets because there is no inner argument. The mind ceases its wrestling, and the flesh lays down its arms. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. The still waters are not dreamy. They are power without strain. Now do you see the design? Over and over, the evidences concur. When advice is withheld and presence is realized, solutions self-assemble without coercion. A door opens of its own hinge. A call comes of its own motion. A pain releases without a hand laid upon it. There is no heat, no hurry, no bargaining. The sign is ease. The sign is liberty. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Do not ascribe these harmonies to me. Never. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. If there is music, thank the musician. I bow and I say, I thank you. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is our sufficiency in all things. And the letters keep coming. Witnesses to one fact, non-interference, married to realized presence, births and order no human will could manufacture. This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes. Now that you have seen what presence does when unopposed, set in your midst the guardrails that keep the way clear. Do not tamper with the cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. It blesses obedience. It cuts misuse. Restraint is reverence. Refuse forbidden methods, and you remain aligned with the law that blesses. First, never project yourself or your thought. Never, not a bit. Do not try to reach across consciousness and work upon a person with currents, images, or intention. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contacts. Why? Because when you take up the sword of manipulation, you invite the sword's return. He that taketh the sword shall perish with the sword. As you sow interference, you reap entanglement. You meant to help, you wake entangled. You meant to heal, you kindle heat. Do not send thought. Realize God. Do not go there. Be here absent from the body of doing, present with the Lord of all doing. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Second, no human advice from the platform or the chair. I never give human advice. Never. Not a bit. Advice breeds dependency. It installs a second God named my way. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The moment I prescribe your steps, I enthrone my will above the will, and law answers in kind. The measure I meet is measured back. I become responsible for the very outcome I tried to manage, and my sleep fills with its fret. Love does not conscript. Love releases. Presence clarifies without commandeering. Third, do not pray to change people. Do not pray, make him stop, make her see, make them yield. That is still the fixer whispering into heaven. Pray to realize God. Pray to be still until the click comes. Be still and know that I am God. When God is realized, harmonies appear by law, not by pressure. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. To aim prayer at a person is idolatry of a second power. To rest in God is fidelity to one. Understand this with the steadiness of engineering. If you build on sand personal will, private method, the structure fails, not because the weather is cruel, but because principle was ignored. Whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock, and it fell not. The rock is law obeyed. The sand is self-preferred. You violate 2 times 2 equals 4, and the wrath you meet is not anger. It is the inevitable correction of mathematics. You violate non-interference, and the collapse you meet is not punishment. It is the inevitable outcome of a misused principle. Therefore, set your consecrations plain. No projecting, no manipulating, no arranging by mind, no advice that breeds leaning, no prayers that enthrone a second will. Restraint is reverence. Refusal is worship. Stand still within the sanctuary of silence, where God alone is God. If a word arises feather light, let it be. Yea, yea, nay, nay. If nothing rises, remain in holy quiet. In my oneness with God, I find completeness. In my oneness with God, I find clarity. In my oneness with God, I find the sufficiency. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And in that grace, the edges of the sword bless and do not cut. Now, what then shall we do and say, since fixing is forbidden and presence is commanded? Begin as lovers of God. Begin gently, simply, without message. When a matter rises between you and another, let the opening posture be this. Before we talk, let us grow still together. 2 minutes. No arguing in those minutes, no arranging, no gathering words. Just 2 minutes in which we close the eyes for comfort, rest the hands open, and whisper once, Thy grace is our sufficiency in all things. Then silence, be still, and know that I am God. Do not force it. Do not time it with a clock spirit. If the click comes quickly, bless it. If it tarries, keep watch. The battle is the Lord's. We will not begin without the Lord. When words are asked of you, let them be words of instrumentality, not of mastery. Say plainly, I don't know, but God knows. I will not guide you with my will. We will wait for the click before deciding. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. If an action presents itself feather light after the click, make the call. Cancel the trip. Apologize. Rest. Obey quietly. If nothing comes, refuse to invent. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. In this way, you do not drop responsibility. You drop the second God of personal direction, and you stand inside the first commandment. Let boundaries speak as reverence, not as rebuke. I can share my experience, but not your instructions. I trust your inner guide as I trust mine. If you want to hear what has worked in me, I will share it. If not, I will be silent with you until light rises. Where force tries to enter, let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. I will not continue this conversation in heat. When peace governs, I will return. I love you. I am not here to win. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty for you and for me, because the same I lives in both. In a crisis, love's law first ensures safety. Silence comes after. If harm is present, step between as shield. Remove the child from the road. Close the door on violence. Call upon those trained to protect life and health. The Samaritan did not lecture the wounded man. He bound him and brought him to care. Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Give the physician their due, the guardian their task, the steward their lane. Then, when breath is safe and blood is quieted, return to the closet within. Thy grace is our sufficiency in all things. No projecting, no managing, just the hush in which God goes on being God. And when the moment's complete, close with gratitude, that is also faith. Thank you, Father, for going before us to make the crooked places straight. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, the path is common and the light is shared. Thy grace is our sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is our sufficiency in all things. And with that, we walk unforced, unafraid, upheld. You ask, how does this look when the roles insist on steering, when I am parent, partner, leader, teacher? Listen gently. Obedience to law does not dissolve these offices. It refines them. Be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. The first swiftness is into silence. The action that follows is simple, clean, unheeded. Parents first. Distinguish protection from possession. A child's body and context are entrusted to you. The child's soul is God's. Suffer the little children to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of God. Protect the body, lock the cabinet, set the curfew, walk them across the street, remove the device when it burns the nerves. These are traffic laws of the house. They keep the road safe for all, but do not engineer the soul. Do not bargain with love. Do not remodel their essence by fear. Pray, and then implement clear, even policies. Yea, yea, nay, nay, without lectures that sculpt identity in your image. Train up a child in the way he should go means witness to law by living it. Let consequences teach their natural math while you guard life and dignity. When heat rises, stop, enter the closet, wait for the click, then act, not to win, but to keep sanctuary. Thy grace is our sufficiency in all things. Partners next. Withdraw from outcome bargains. Love is not an exchange desk. Say what is true and what is yours to live. Yea, yea, nay, nay, without invoices for compliance. Oh, no man, anything but to love one another. Non-transactional love does not mean permissiveness. It means honest limits without manipulation. If a pattern harms, name it without theater. If a behavior persists, step back in peace, not in punishment. I love you. I cannot remain in this pattern. When the click directs apology, apologize. When it directs departure from the argument, depart. No ultimatums forged in heat. Silence first. Then the featherlight step that leaves neither residue nor gloating. Leaders. Establish clear roles that protect the many as traffic laws protect the city. Post the speed. Stripe the lane. Maintain the bridge policy as shield, not as thumb on conscience. He that is greatest among you shall be your servant. Set standards and transparent consequences. Apply just balances and just weights, and refuse the itch to micromanage thought. You are not hired to colonize the inner life. You are charged to secure the commons. When correction is needed, make it procedural, even, and free of scorn. Law teaches, humiliation does not. Teachers and healers. Guide into practice, not dependency. Point to the closet, not to your chair. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. You must knock. Do not carry them, show them how to walk. I never give human, I say, sit, be still, wait for the click, and obey the unheeded impulse. If they return to lean on you, return them to God. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. Non-passivity is the fruit of alignment. In silence, the blueprint clears. After the click, steps appear, cancel the meeting, change the shift, ground the phone, open the ledger, call the counselor, end the quarrel with a soft yes or a soft no. Decisive, but not driven. Clean, but not cold. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Hold your peace until the Lord moves you. Then move and be done. Obedience to cosmic law refines every office into protection and clarity. No collapse into passivity. Only presence first, and then the simple act that keeps the sanctuary intact. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is our sufficiency in all things. What happens when a people stops fixing and begins to live as instruments of one presence? Everything changes. From intervention to cooperation, from opinion to obedience, from heat to hush, law becomes architecture, and love becomes the air we share. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Not in the middle of our managing, but in the midst of our surrender. The city begins to feel like a sanctuary, the office like a chapel, the kitchen table like an altar, not because we add religious trappings, but because we honor each conscience as holy ground where God alone is God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, and that includes the God of my will in your affairs. The double-edged sword is sheathed because the law is kept. In such a people, the oneness litany ceases to be poetry. It becomes the daily weather. In my oneness with God, I find completeness, and I see the same in you. In my oneness with God, I find security, and I see the same in you. In my oneness with God, I find peace, and I see the same in you. In my oneness with God, I find joy, and I see the same in you. In my oneness with God, I find fulfillment, and I see the same in you. One light perceived, many lamps relieved of striving. I and my Father are one, and therefore, by law, we are one. In the one not to control, but to cherish. What of economics in relation? When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing I have, rivalry ends, sharing begins. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Addition appears without auction. The ledger softens, the hoard loosens. Give us this day our daily bread becomes a testimony instead of a plea, and the storehouse opens along quiet channels, an extra seat at the table, a tool lent without suspicion, an introduction offered without fee. Where the second god of fear is dismissed, the desert blooms. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, and in liberty sufficiency flows to all. Let us then set a simple communal practice. 2 minutes of shared silence before deliberation, before correction, before decree. Doors closed for comfort, hands at rest. A single password whispered together once. Thy grace is our sufficiency in all things. And then we wait for the click. If the click comes, decisions descend, feather light. Yea, yea, nay, nay. If heat rises, we wait. If fear speaks, we wait. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace until he moves you, and then you move without residue and without gloating. So we close with thanksgiving, which is also vow. I am that I am. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, we are a people of one altar and many rooms, one law and many duties, one light and countless reflections. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is our sufficiency in all things. And so it is. And I thank you.